y'all. Welkom bij een nieuwe episode van de DBnotes Podcast. En ook vandaag heb ik een bijzondere gast. Alleen is er vandaag een kleine verandering in, maar dat merk je zo. Today I have as a guest Dr. Ian Cummings. Welcome.
Hey, blessings, sir.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great is good to be in Suriname.
Yes.
All right, and also it's amazing to be on your podcast. We have been having this discussion for a while.
That's correct.
All right, and now I'm here. I think seizing the opportunity is important. So I'm really glad for us to have this discussion and share some things that are really potent and important for the listeners.
No, thank you. Thank you for being here. I know that at the beginning of my podcast, you told me, hey, I'll be on your podcast when you're in Suriname.
Yes.
And I told you that I had you on my list as well.
Okay, right. Yes.
But it was like maybe 25 or 13 guests
okay.
further. And now you're already in the top 15. So it went
15,
faster.
Okay, all right.
It went faster than planned.
But I'm glad to make the cut.
But now you're here.
Yeah.
For the people who don't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. I think one of the word that you want to use is multifaceted.
Okay.
All right, multifaceted, multidimensional in terms of what I do, because I wear a lot of caps. So I think just to share a little bit in terms of who I am, I'm a PK, right, pastor's kid.
Okay.
All right. Also, I'm so married, wife, 2 daughters. All right. I'm also a minister of the gospel, but I'm also a businessman and also a mentor, a coach. I do mediation, counseling, all right, and an author. Okay. So all those fit. So it's multifaceted. That's why I'm saying it's multifaceted. Mm-hmm. But I think for a couple of years now, I've been more moving into the direction of business, right? And because of that, it allowed me the opportunity to create a lot of content, even in terms of products for classes and programs that I do. Also, a lot of doors have been opened for me in the banking sector, insurance sector, and different sectors, also in the church sector, all right? Because I see basically one of the mandate I think I carry is to merge what we call ministry and the marketplace.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go into that.
All right.
We'll
good.
Go into
all
that.
right. Yeah.
And when you were a little boy,
okay.
have you thought about doing these things?
Not really, but I knew at the age of 10,
okay,
I knew I was going to be a preacher. All right, I knew I was going to be a pastor. So that was confirmed at the age of 10 years. All right, because my father, who basically who is deceased now, was a pastor. I'm a 3rd generation pastor. Mm-hmm. All right, so while moving with him, I'm the last of 12. Okay, so I literally, my father in his old age, so I was with my father most of the time, taking me to preach, when he's going to preach, when he's going to do stuff. So I've been exposed to that at a very young age. So the confirmation of being a pastor and being a preacher was established at the age of 10. And as I grew, my desire to read and to study and for growth and development, that is something that has also been established at a young age. I love to read. I love to write. I love knowledge. And I love also to help people grow and develop. So those things started at the age of 12, 15, 16, all that stuff there.
Yeah. Saying that, 12 children.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself, for the people who know who Joseph is, do you see yourself as a Joseph?
Joseph, yeah. Yes, I do, because I think Joseph is one of my favorite characters. Okay. He's one of my favorite characters. Even when we talk about merging ministry and the marketplace and the function of believers in the marketplace, I think Joseph is a character that really kind of model for that.
Yeah. Great insight. What made the shift going into business and the marketplace?
Okay. It's
What
good.
happened? What happened for you to make that switch?
All right. So growing up in church, I think for me, I saw a lot of believers who come to church and struggle with finance. Were not wealthy. They were hearing the gospel, they were hearing the word, but it was not evident in their life. And for me, as I said before, as a reader, when I read certain scriptures in the Bible, like for instance, there's a passage in Deuteronomy 8 and verse 18 that says, he gave you power to get wealth to establish his kingdom. All right, so where's the wealth? Where's the power? Where's all that stuff? So I ask a lot of questions. So when I look around at believers, I realized that those things wasn't evident. I think what a shift for me was when I came into contact with deceased Bob Protka. Probably you know about Bob.
No. Bob?
Bob Protka. Yeah, you
The
know Bob.
author.
Yeah. You got to know Bob. Yeah. Right. So I think I get in contact with him early, exposed to some of his teaching, and he was sharing something on paradigm. Okay, and I can remember at the age of all 18, I heard also another deceased pastor, Pastor Paul Bobcom. He was the first person I heard speak about, mention paradigm. And that was years ago. So I said, what's this paradigm? But when I heard Bob Protka teaching on paradigm, it sparked something in me. And when I began to study it, because I did a lot of courses with him, mentoring and program with him, and I think that the clarity, when I studied that, the clarity came to me to understand why a lot of individuals will sit under knowledge, be exposed to it, and not shift. Because when you understand paradigm, that is something that's been established in your subconscious mind, all right, to block you from moving forward. So even though you are exposed to information and knowledge, all right, you're not going to go further than the paradigm that you have established in your subconscious mind.
That's good.
Okay?
That's good.
So that was the turning point for me. So I realized why individuals were stuck. And I started to teach on paradigm. I started to take classes with Bob Protka, mentoring program and thing. And that basically was a starting point for me establishing programs and teaching believers how to shift their mindset. Yeah. So
it was a mind shift for you as well.
Yeah, it was a mind shift for me. Yeah, because I always remember is knowledge and shifting and changing, because you cannot be exposed to knowledge that telling you this is how you're supposed to be successful, this is how you're supposed to be wealthy. But then when you look in the lives of individuals, it is not evident. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, and you don't see what you're reading or talking about.
Yeah.
You mentioned you love reading.
Yes.
What kind of books
were
you reading?
Well, again, multifaceted. So I do like leadership, right? Personal development. There was a program I used to do called Rules of the Arena, which deals with sex and all that stuff. So I read a lot of books about those things.
That was the first book I had from you.
That was my first book. Yeah. That was my first book. So I did a lot of reading in that, in terms of how the body works, sex, emotions, and all that stuff. So I love to read about those things. I really read about the mindsets. I study Hebrew. I study Greek. I study. My mentor is a rabbi, Dr. O. Obadiah. Okay. So that knowledge, I'm really versed into that, because the concept with that knowledge to the knowledge that we have now in terms of from the European concept is totally different. So that was basically, so those are some of the books I read.
No, that's great mentioning that, because looking into the business world now,
yes,
a lot of large companies have Jewish principles or a Jewish background, or the founder or CEO is from a Jewish lineage. So great that you're studying that as well. Yeah. Learning that from a young age.
Yeah.
You're talking about the shift being made, and then also coaching other people.
Yes.
How was it in the beginning? Because now you're dealing with people and saying, hey, is it like this what you're doing is not correct. This is how it should be done. How was that in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was tough, but again, and I'm going to share this with you, there's a lot of concepts I have established early, because before I started teaching people, I had to teach myself. So I spent time to really digest the information, become what I'm teaching. Okay, so before I started teaching paradigm and shifting mindset, my mindset would already shift. Okay, that's why I said to you that doing the studies with the late Bob Protka, I work on myself first, because when you become it, you attract it. So those concepts were really, really, really established first. So I didn't start to go and teach on it and all that stuff before. Now, kudos for those who are doing both, and that's okay, all right? But for me, I really wanted to be the product of the product. So when I stand before you to talk about paradigm and shifted mindset and thing, I'm talking about something I've experienced, something I'm manifesting. So it's a product of the product you're looking at. Yeah.
What was because you've mentioned starting with Rota.
Yeah,
as a book.
Yeah, Rota.
When or how many years after that did you start to make the shift to business and principles?
That was probably about 6 years.
Okay.
6 years after.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 years.
Okay, and going to that time, what were some principles that you already seen that had to change, or principles that were there that people were not aware of?
Okay.
That you are now teaching to these people. How has that been?
All right. Some of the principles are very, very, when I say very simple. All right. Because one of the block was, like I saw with individuals in the church, was they were hearers, but they were not doers. They were hearers, but they were not doers.
Okay.
Okay. And so I established first, if I'm hearing something, I want to do it. So I started, so the problem was implementation. Okay, which means that a lot of individuals were not implementing the things they were being taught. So I started to really begin to implement. All right. So if I learned something, I started to really look for the principles, which you're going to hear me talk about in our discussion this evening. All right. So I look about principles. Okay. So I started to look for the promises. All right. Because next to every promise, there's a principle to apply.
Okay.
So folks are excited about a promise. All right. But if you negate the principle, then the promise is not going to manifest. So I started to look for the principles.
Can you give an example on that?
All right. Like for instance, there's a principle, there's a promise. If you take any promise in the Bible, all right. So let's say, for instance, like he said, I give you power to get wealth to establish the kingdom of God.
Okay.
All right. So that's basically like a promise. Okay. So the principle behind that is so you look for the power. All right. What is the power? The power is ideas, insights, and concepts. Okay.
Ideas, insights and concepts. Okay.
Okay. So the word power there, that is what it means. Okay. So when he said, I'm going to give you power to get wealth. Okay. Which means I'm going to give you an idea. I'm going to give you some plan. I'm going to give you something. All right. So I look for the idea. I look for a concept. All right. And if I implement that, the wealth is going to come. So he's not going to give me like money falling down from the sky.
While you were talking, I was thinking people may be expecting money from above.
Right. So it's simple, and it's really something that is in the Bible, right? Any promise you see in the Bible, next day there's a principle to apply to get the promise, which means, and the principle really saying there's something that you need to do to get it, steps that you need to take. So you cannot negate that. So you look for that. And that's what I started to do.
Look
for the principles. See, everything got to be principle driven. Even in our discussion, when we're talking about wealth and pursuing wealth, if you're going to pursue wealth, all right, you have to be what we call, there are 3 P's, I say. Promise driven, all right, principle driven, and I think is the next one, promise, principle, and prophecy driven. All right, so you got to be driven, which means that, so you look for the principles, you look for the promise, right? So if you're pursuing it now, it's going to be governed, it's going to be guided by those things. So you're not going to go crazy, you're not going to go off too much, right? Because your pursuit that you're going after wealth is going to be structured based on principles that will keep you in line. So the principles is going to work like what we call picket fence.
Explain that, please.
All right. So when you talk about principles like picket fence, which means that when any offer comes to you that is contrary, because on your journey to wealth, there are going to be a lot of options and opportunities coming to you. All right? Some good, some bad to get money.
You have to filter.
How are you going to evaluate the options and the opportunities that come to you? That is where the principles come in. So if I had to make a decision, whether it's a business decision, whatever decision that involves money, all right, that decision is going to be governed by the principles I've established to keep me in line. So that's why I say come as a picket fence, which means I will not go further than that.
No, understood.
Yeah, so that is important.
Yeah. Another question.
Yeah.
You've been training a lot of people over the years. What have you seen as a big block for people not applying these principles?
All right. Mindset. Key. All right. Mindset. I'm heavy on the restructuring of mind. So, for instance, like patterns that have been established in your subconscious mind is a hindrance. All right. If you're dealing with people in church, religion is a block. All right. Some of the things. So when I say patterns, like, so let's go into how patterns are forming your subconscious mind.
Okay.
All right. So patterns are forming your subconscious mind based on the environment that you grew up in. So if somebody grew up in an environment of poverty, of lack, of insufficiency, right, and struggle, the environment is shaping your mindset, right, as a child growing up. So if you grew up in that environment, your belief system and your values are being shaped. So your beliefs when it comes to money, your values when it comes to money. Your beliefs when it comes to relationship, your values when it comes to relationship. Anything in life is being formed. So what they call it, they said that from 0 to 7, it's what you call the formative stage of a child. So they call it the peer impact stage. So a mother and a father is important in the life of that child during those stages, because we call it the peer impact stages. So which means that the presence of a father is important to impact certain, let's say, principles, all right, certain morals and values into the life of that child. If a father is absent, then it will miss the opportunity of getting those values from a father. All right? So your environment. Right, your environment is important. Okay? Now remember, you're looking at people who, you're mentoring and coaching people who is 30, who is 25. These are adults. All right? Their mindset has already been formed. Then the next one we call is like credible others, which means like, who is a credible person that spoke to you when you were growing up? Your father, your mother, your principal in school, teachers. They were credible, which means that when those people say something or speak, you believe it.
Yeah.
Without questioning it, you're not even going to read about it. You're not even going to discuss it. Daddy says so. Miss says so. All right? Miss was wrong. Miss, I know. But when you come, when a child comes home to mommy and mommy says, no, this is how to do it. But Miss says so. But Miss, mommy had to back off because Mrs. Right. Okay. So what about if that Miss was teaching something wrong? All right. What about the father? So just think about that now. You grew up in an environment, and that credible person in your life is your father. But that father, your father is not able to manage money. He's not able to make money. He cannot multiply money, and he hasn't mastered money. What is teaching you about money? So whatever he teach you, if he mismanages money, if he squander money, you're learning that. And remember, a child learn not based on what you say, but based on what you do.
And they see that.
Right. So now I'm getting into this to show you how the mindset. Okay. Then so you have credible others. Then you have life experience. What are some of the life experience you experienced when you were a child? I remember what you experience is more real to you than somebody telling you something.
That's true.
Right? So if you experience lack, if you experience poverty, now, and this what I'm sharing here, it goes into different categories. It goes into relationship, it goes into different things. Okay? Now, why I'm getting to that? Because we're talking about the patterns that form in your subconscious mind. All right? That is where paradigm comes in. Okay? And those what if you learn that now, what is being established is values and beliefs. Okay? So when you reach an adult and when it's time to money and finance, what is your belief and what is your value based on money? On saving, on investment, on managing money.
It will be probably
based on what you... Right, it's going to be based on that. So the question you asked was, what is the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge is that. All right, that is where paradigm comes in now. Okay? So the first thing I do with a mentee when they sit with me for mentoring program I do is to shift their paradigm. You establish where the paradigm is, and then you shift the paradigm.
We don't have to go too deep into that, but now you have an adult, 30, 35 years.
Yes, okay.
And this is the environment in which this person was in.
Right.
Where do you start to, because you're talking about making the shift.
Yes.
Where do you start?
All right, with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so first thing I start with them, I give them an exercise that I will say to them, what are the areas in your life that you want to be established, to develop? So most of the time they'll tell you family, relationship, finance, business, spiritual. All right? So you take those 5 areas and you create a category, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? And then based on the age of the person, you tell them now, you say to them, how do you see yourself in the next 5 years or 10 years? We use 10 years as a decade. All right? But based on your age, between in terms of how far or fast you want results, you use 5 years. All right? So let's say in the business, how do you see yourself in the next 5 years in terms of finance or business? So I give them that exercise to do for 3 weeks. Every day you need to write for 20 minutes or 30 minutes in each category how you see yourself.
The 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to do it every day. And you have to send it for me every week. All right? So you're using your imagination and you cannot hold back anything. Okay? Just what comes to mind, write it down. Write it down. Because every day is going to shift. Okay? And every week you write is going to come less and less. Because you want clarity. First thing you want to establish is clarity. Because if you sit with me, and you don't know where you're going, or you're not seeing where you're going, I can't take you there. When that is established, we create what we call a roadmap to get there. That's what. The next thing that we're going to do, I give them paradigm breaking exercise. So there's a course I have on paradigm shifting. And I give you a little exercise to do. So for instance, like if you're a right-hander, then the thing is the left side of your brain is more active. All right? So which means if you're a left-hander, this side of your brain is active. Okay? Right? So we want to shake that up. So if you're a right-hander, I will give you the book of Proverbs, the right word for word, every day with your left hand. All right? Because now you want to activate your right side of your brain. It's paradigm we're dealing with. All right? I will tell you now, if you're a right-hander, which means you brush your mouth with your right hand, start doing it with your left hand because we're activating this side. All right? So there's some of the exercise I give, and then I take them into the paradigm. So after they write that, we go into the paradigm shifting program. And then after the paradigm shifting program, I tell them now, take a week and write how you see yourself. And it's totally different. Because as long as the paradigm is shift, you see different. Okay? Especially when you do it. And these are some of the exercises Bob gave us. So I just use the pattern. So you ask somebody, he will ask you, how much money you want to make at the end of the year?
Great question.
Yeah. Now, and it's not really about the money. It's about your paradigm. Okay? Because you will call a limit amount based on your paradigm. That's it. I want to make 100,000. All right, okay, all right. But it shows where your paradigm is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a book by I think it's not Econ, but it's about we talk about the thermostat for your mind, your paradigm, your mindset. Changing the thermostat for your mindset. Okay. It says similar to paradigms, okay? Because a paradigm is your control. It controls your whole system. All right? There's something called the cybonic system. All right? A cybonic system, your paradigm works like that. And this is the last I'm going to share on that for you. It's basically like when you go into, they have it built into the airplane. Right? So when the pilot goes in, he plugs in location together with everything, right? So if a plane is leaving from, let's say from Suriname to go to Netherlands,
okay.
Netherlands,
okay.
right? So it set the location. But before that plane reaches there, it goes off course approximately 2 or 3 times. But nobody knows, all right? But because the location is set, all right, it's in the cybonic system, what it does, the minute it goes off course, it brings it back. That is how your paradigm system works, just like a cybonic system. So this is why if your mindset has been established to think a certain way when it comes to finance, when it comes to relationship, when it comes to those things, although you want to be successful, or you want it, when you start, the minute you go off, it brings you back. Your paradigm will bring you back. So the breaking of those paradigms is important.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing on that. And then you've had this conversation, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then you start writing books, or in between you had your
all right.
your
Well, the book basically, I lived in New Jersey for about 7 years, okay. 6 years, 6.5 so. All right. My father got sick, so I had to come back to Trinidad to take up ministry, and this is something the Lord spoke to me about. He said, "You're gonna be writing books, all right? So I want you to document everything that you're doing." So in earlies, I start teaching in PowerPoints, all right? So I used to write everything down, and when I started to write books, everything was already there. So it was easy for me to turn those collections into books, all right? So that's basically. And the first book, was Sex and the City, all right, which was really, really a movement. Okay. But I say this, that even the birthing of that book was challenging, all right? And as I also tell people that your first is always a breaker. It might be hard to birth the first, but the minute you birth the first and the second, it becomes easy. I remember when we had the first conference with Rules of the Arena, Sex and the City, I paid a guy $10,000 to publish the book, edit all that stuff. Conference, come, we waiting on the book. The book never showed.
That he scammed you.
When I can say scam, we can never get back with money.
Wow.
All right, so that was the first experience. Excited about the book, marketing. The book is going to come out. We launching the book tonight. People are excited about the book. We had approximately about almost 600 people waiting for the book. All right, well, the book is not going to be here. And that was it. That was the first experience with the book.
And a lesson.
Yeah?
And a lesson.
Well, the lesson I learned from that is that don't stop, keep pushing.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a dream, you have a desire. Yes, it's discouraging, and sometimes I say when you start, you may lose some stuff, but you don't really lose anything. Those are teaching moments. All right? And right now, I have 7 published books. But if I had stopped because of the first obstacles, although it was expensive, then I wouldn't be where I am. So now for me to write a book now is like that.
Yeah.
I could put a book in probably about a month, 2 months.
Yeah, that would be my add-on to that.
Yeah.
Looking at the tools that we have now
available.
apart from the writing. Although some people just use ChatGPT and they put something in together.
Yeah.
The tools that people have now,
Mm.
it's easier to
It's easier.
to write your books.
Yeah.
You have two of your latest
Yes.
here with me. The 4 levels of human existence and the wealth path. That is the first one.
Yeah.
And then you have unlocked, mastering mental toughness for peak performance.
Yeah. Yes.
I will let you share on the first one, the wealth path. 4 levels of human existence.
Yeah. Well, 4 levels of human existence basically is written from another book, which is 4 levels of human existence, and this one basically what we call the wealth path. All right. I did a course on the wealth path. Okay. The first course I did was I did a course on entrepreneurship. All right. And that piqued some interest. We had it online on the website where people could register, go up and do it. I did it for a few companies. I did it for churches and things. It was really, really powerful. So that's sparked the interest to write 4 levels of human existence. And I'm coming into the wealth part, right? So 4 levels of human existence was a teaching I did. All right. And the teaching wasn't on finance or anything. It was just moving from the 4 levels of human existence is the begging level, the digging level, the money level, and the wealth level. All right. And I was using a scripture in the Bible in the book of Luke 16 with the unjust steward who was entrusted with all this wealth from his master, and he goes and he come back because he heard the master is abusing his resources. And the question was, what was he entrusted with? Okay, so we started to deal with that. So the whole concept from 4 levels and the wealth path came from that.
Yeah, okay.
All right, and together with, there's a friend of mine who is Terrell Cummings from Barbados. All right, he's also an investor, right? Also in business, a professor, teacher on wealth and money and economics and thing. He also was part of writing that book, 4 Levels of Human Existence, because we get into the finance aspect of it. It's a very, very powerful book. So a lot of copies with that. So coming out of that, I realized that it had a lot of scriptures, but it's really, really powerful. Okay, but then doors started to open for me in the banking sector, insurance sector, business sector. So I wanted to go into that space, not with too much of scriptures per se, but to go with something, because most of the principles for wealth and things come from the Bible. All right, but I wanted to go with something that is going to be that somebody out there who don't go to church can really take it up and say, okay, well, all right, I'll read this. But yet it's embedded with a lot of biblical principles. So wealth part basically is designed like that. Okay? So that's basically how it was birthed. So it's teaching on entrepreneurship, how to start a business, some of the challenges, the structures. It moves into asset and liabilities in terms of banking, investment. So it covers a whole lot. All right. But this book basically there's a course also. So when you go through the chapters, you could answer some questions, ask some questions in the back of each chapter so that you could really interact with the book and thing. Really, really powerful. It deals with mindset. So some of the same concept from 4 Levels of Human Existence, but more from a business sector. Business sector.
I want to stay at the 4 levels.
4 levels, okay.
You've just mentioned that.
Right, okay.
How does someone who's at the lowest one, according to your study, your research, move to, let's say, another level?
Right, okay. So the first level is the begging level. All right. You have to identify where you're at. I know sometimes when you say beggars, somebody say, I'm not a beggar, but you have there are some people that are beggars mentally. All right, there are some people who are physical beggars who you're asking people. But you have to identify where you are financially. That's the concept with begging. That's a level. What level you at? Establish where you at. Okay, now when you establish that, the second is the digging level. So digging now is a means of coming out from begging. So the digging aspect now is what are some of the strategies you're going to move from begging to digging, because you have to dig your way out. And when you think about digging, it needs your participation. It needs your involvement. It needs what we call intentional action. Okay? So the tools to dig, you have to be able to dig your way out and dig in your mindset, shifting your mindset. We come back to paradigms, all that stuff, and then digging. So there's something I did with that called go-to-go paradigm.
Go-to-go.
Grow to go paradigm. Okay, which means now that, and this is a concept with the digging, because you have to work on yourself. Okay, grow to go. If you don't grow, you will not go. Okay, your business will grow based on your growth. So there are a lot of people who want a business to grow. Okay, your business grow, but are you growing? So there are people who have good businesses. They're building nice, all kind of nice stuff in the business, but is it going? No, because it's not going to go because you're not growing. Your business will go based on your growth. That is where personal development come in, and that is where the digging aspect come in. Your mind, shifting your mindset, getting the tools and things that is necessary, the structure in your business, the business plan you're using. There's something I built in that with the digging called the 5 Gs. Right, I call it the 5 Gs for success. All right, so you could take, with the 5 Gs, you could take that and structure any business. So if you come to me with an idea, I could put you sit down based on the digging. The digging concept is, which means you have to do something to get out from begging.
You can't just sit down.
No, you can't.
It won't happen.
No, you can't. You cannot be lazy. You can't be lackadaisical. All right, you have to dig. All right.
And then we're at the digging level.
Right. So you dig your way out. You create that structure. But anytime you dig, though, remember you dig, you create opportunities for what? For money to flow. So the digging could move you into the money level, where money begin to flow. Because remember, wealth and money is something different. All right? Because wealth, when you're talking about the wealth, you're talking about generational stuff, legacy. Okay, for the 3rd and 4th generation wealth. So somebody could be rich, but they're not wealthy. So you want to establish that. So when you dig, all right, business-wise, you create streams of income for inflow of money to come in. Because you will need some sort of cash coming in. Okay, so you may start with digging. You may dig a couple wells. All right, because in the 4 levels I talk about the wells. I use Jacob because remember, the first 4 levels was more biblical concepts. Right, so I use the wells that Jacob dig. All right, so because you have to dig your way out. All right, you have to dig down, you have to dig deep, and you have to dig again. Until you find that well. Until you find that business that will break forth. So you're doing this, you dig here, you dig here, you dig here, but bam, this one bursts forth. That is the one now that will begin to flow. So that is where the digging comes in, because the digging will create a flow of finance to come in, because you need finance, you need money to invest, you need money to do things. So that is the concept of the digging.
So money is not, it's not bad.
Oh, no, money is not bad. Okay. Money is bad.
You know, there's a saying, money is evil. That is what people say.
Nah, you can't go with what people say. I go what the Bible says. The Bible says the root of money is the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of it. Money is not evil. All right? Because the same Bible will tell you money answered all things. Money answered all things. So is it contradicting itself? That's what I'm saying. All right? This is why even in the 4 levels of human existence, I talk about you pursue again for wealth. All right? It must be what? Promise-driven. All right? Principle-driven. Purpose-driven. So you ask the question, what is your purpose for pursuing wealth? Is it for greed? Is it just what? What is your purpose? So when you establish those things, all right, that's going to build a foundation for you to go forward. Because money magnify who you are.
Yeah, I would add something on that.
Yeah. Money magnifies who you are. So some people, listen. Some people, they are not doing certain things, not because they're holy,
They don't have money.
because they don't have money. You will be surprised the most holy person who always holy, and you put $1 million in their hand, because money magnifies who you are. There are people who don't do certain things, not because they don't want to do it, it's because they don't have the money to do it. This is why when you read about finance and things, God trusts you. What's it? Let me know how to put it. Not just trusts you, He tests you, kind of, not tests, but in terms of money, if you can manage money. This is why we use the laws of money. You must be able to make it. You must be able to manage it. You must be able to multiply it, and you must be able to master it.
When you're saying this, I'm just thinking about people who win the lottery.
Yeah.
They just got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then sometimes within a few months, sometimes a few weeks.
Why is that? Why is that? All right.
Based on what you're saying now, they have never learned on managing, keeping it.
Right. So this is why the money is not the problem. And I think when we go back to that I said, the go-to-go paradigm. When you build yourself, you attract. You have to become it. The money will come, but when you become it, you attract it. So if it comes now and you're not built, you can't handle it. So that's why people who win lotto and all those kind of things, I mean, they get excited, they spend it in about a year time, even 6 months time, all the money gone. Why? All right? They said somebody who living in the ghetto, you give them $5 million. What do you do? Come on. Why? Because they don't have what? The mindset, the skill set, the gift set to handle the money.
I want to take a bit different route.
Sure.
Now that you're teaching people how to deal with money, wealth, and stuff.
Yeah.
How do they make the transfer to the next generation? Because earlier you mentioned keeping it for the third and fourth.
Right.
So how do they establish that? That now that they make the shift, they keep it for the generations to follow instead of spending it within their own generation.
Okay. Now, one of the things I enforce, I'm going to tell you this. You see that aspect of the promise-driven, purpose-driven, principle-driven? That is key. Because remember, you're thinking generational. You're thinking legacy. You're not just thinking for you. Okay? And that's where the wealth aspect comes in. Because you're not thinking about yourself. Okay? Let's go back to the Bible. The Bible says a good man leaves what? An inheritance for his third and fourth generation. So if I'm building something, I'm going into that, I am not thinking about myself. Because what's my lifespan? 80, 90, 95? My lifespan will be 95 years. All right? So when I'm off the scene, what about my child? What about my children's children? Third and fourth generation. So when I'm thinking, and when I'm building generational. Now that will change the whole ball game of things, It changes the dynamic of things. All right? So if I'm building something, I'm implementing systems in place. All right? Systems will ensure longevity and legacy. All right? So if I'm working, I'm comfortable. I don't need to work. I don't need to do certain things. But when I think about legacy, when I think about generational, because the vision is not just for my time, all right? I'm going out to work because I'm leaving something for the next generation. So that is basically how it is. Yeah.
The reason why I also ask this question, sometimes you have rich people, and then looking at their children, they've grown into a lot of money, but then you see that they don't have the same principles of their parents. And then sometimes they lose that, or it goes away within the second or the third generation. That's why I had that question.
No, that one of the things that I did in that book was the we talk about wealth. We went into the wealth aspect. We touched on the millionaire mindset, right? And I itemize some things is in how to become a millionaire. And the most times you have different ways in different aspects. So you have I spoke about, and which is basically what he's talking about here. You have insured millionaire. So you can insure yourself for $1 million. All right? There's nothing wrong with leaving $1 million for your child when you die. All right? So that's an insured millionaire. Then you have what you call an asset millionaire. So you have assets that's worth millions. All right? And then you have liquid millionaire.
Cash.
Right, so you have cash millionaire, million in the bank that you just cash. All right? So when we're talking about a millionaire mindset or becoming a millionaire, you could fall into one of those categories. Okay? And that's those things are important.
No, it's because, and then you have also looking into most of our largest part of my audience is in Suriname.
Okay, all right.
Being a millionaire in Suriname, it's different than being a millionaire in the US looking at the exchange rate. But
okay, well, let me tell you folks, the minute you talk millionaire, you're not thinking TT and you're not thinking Suriname. You can't.
US.
No. You take US, you take euros, you take pounds, you're thinking at that level. All right, the minute you think, because, all right, a millionaire in Suriname, I mean, you have probably about 500,000 people have been millionaires in Suriname.
That's correct.
But when you think the currencies you're thinking when you're talking, especially when you be doing business now, the currencies that you're thinking US, you're thinking euros, you're thinking pounds, you're thinking crypto, you're thinking that is what you're thinking.
Yeah. You started from the church?
Yeah, yes.
Or you've grown up in the church?
Yes.
You start doing these teachings, and even the businesses start asking you to train them. How was that transition for you?
It's good. I think my first experience was with a bank in Trinidad, and I had a meeting with the directors of the bank from different locations. And they had an issue where, I'm going to call the bank name and all that stuff. All right. The challenge was not the in terms of the workers because the banks, some of these companies, they have training there. Yeah, they train their people. All right. But the problem was this bank now, we train our people, we're not getting results. So from there now, I know I'm going in not to do training with them. So the conversation I'm having with the directors, the managers at these locations wasn't based on training, because they will tell you, hey, we have training where you can go and train us. All right. But okay, so the problem was, oh, you have training, but then why are you training that? Why the people? Okay. That is when I create a program called, the same program I tell you about just now, Grow to Go Paradigm. That was the first time I introduced that program to them. All right? Because the problem was a paradigm, a mindset thing.
For the workers.
For the workers, because they were not motivated, their mindset was stuck. And again, with paradigm, don't matter what information you get, trust what I'm saying. You'll be entertained, you'll be excited, but you'll never move. Because you will not go above that paradigm. So when I began to explain that to them on the table, it was a seal deal for them. All right? So that was the first one. Yeah.
You've mentioned going into the marketplace.
Yes.
From the start, and I said I want to touch on that.
Yeah.
How would you define the marketplace?
All right. The marketplace, how do you define the marketplace?
Or,
good talk. The marketplace basically is the sector of society, all right, where you have these gates. You have what you have the educational sector. You have the political sector. You have the business sector. You have different sectors. Okay, that's the marketplace where things happen. All right? And the concept of ministry and marketplace, most of the folks who in church ministry, they function in the marketplace. Everybody function in the marketplace. Okay? And the thing about that now, you spend more time in the marketplace than you spend in church. So the question I ask folks is that where you have to function, where you have to function more. Which area is it of real importance? Is it in the church where I stay in church on Sundays 4 hours? So 4 Sundays for the month. All right? 4 and 4 is 8, that is 16 hours on a Sunday. Wednesday, probably 3 hours. You do the maths. 24 hours in a day. All right? So already now you know exactly how much hours you will spend in the marketplace and home. All right? And I could show you these things basically, biblically, and things in the Bible. But the marketplace is a place where we're supposed to function. All right? So my concept of the marketplace is that helping individual identify in terms of what skills and they have, and to elevate in the marketplace, because that is where you're supposed to dominate, and that is where you're supposed to take over.
And you're doing it with these concepts.
Yeah, with the identifying your skill set, your tool set, your gift set, developing your mindset to dominate in the marketplace.
Yeah. The thing I like about these topics or conversations, it's not only useful for money and wealth, because the same principles, like you've mentioned, you can use it for money, relationships.
Yeah, the concept.
The concept, sometimes they are broad.
Yeah, it's broad, yeah.
I want to take this one. I haven't looked into
yeah.
this one yet, but the mental toughness sparked some interest. So, what is the toughness, or at least mental toughness, that you are referring to with this book?
All right. The definition I have there is that I said the ability to preserve and maintain focus, all right, and determination, all right, in the midst of challenges, in the midst of obstacles. The ability to maintain, all right. So, being able to have a strong mind when you are faced with challenges, because life comes with what? Challenges. And there are a lot of people who crumble under pressure. There are a lot of people who walk away and give up. Whether you're talking about relationship challenges, financial challenges, emotional, sexual, whatever challenge, all right, political, there are challenges. Life comes with that. All right? You come out of one, you get into one. So you're not going to escape from that. So if I'm not going to run from it, because if I run from this problem here, guess what? And I run across is the next one. So then I have to learn now how can I develop my mindset to deal with these challenges that I face. So that book is really based on going through the different phases and the assets that you have to build going forward with that. All right. One of the things I said with that is that if I'm facing a problem, problems are temporary, is not permanent.
Problems are
temporary, is not permanent. You gotta understand that.
Yeah, I want to say something on that. There was a saying like, you can't make permanent decisions.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna
say. Based on temporary issues or problems. So that's important as well.
Yeah.
Having mental toughness for performance, talking about money and wealth. I'm curious, because you've been doing this for a few years now, and you're covering different areas. Do you see or maybe from your experience, do you see issues popping up because of a lack of finances? It could either be in relationships or your workplace, or maybe even issues with, not issues, but your mindset. Do you see a lack of it as a result?
It is. You go back to money answered all things. Money answered all things. All right. If you sit down with anyone, yes, they have this problem. Yes, they have this problem. but the underlying factor is money.
Money can fix it.
Yeah, money is money is money. Even, let me tell you this, if you have money, there are certain things you're not going to pray about, sir. Trust me. If you have, let's say, $1 million to go and buy a Ferrari, will you waste half an hour praying for that? Come on. All right, so there are some things that you wouldn't have to pray about. Why? Because you have the money to go and get it. All right? When you have discussions with individuals, the underlying factor is money, whether it's marital, relationship, anything. It boils down to money. And then when you bring in the money hand now, you realize everybody get calm. I believe that some of the greatest set of frustrations that I've dealt with people that they face with, it boils down to they don't have money.
But saying that or seeing that or having to deal with that,
Yeah.
giving them money.
That is another thing. Now, although the problem is money, giving them money now will not solve the problem based on the condition they are in. Because most people want a quick fix. Because if I give you money to fix a problem, guess what? Next month that problem occurs again. Did you learn anything? I'm going to give you more money. It's like the concept that says if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a day. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him a fish, you feed him for life. All right? So listen to this. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him to fish, you feed him for life. But if you teach him how to own the pond, that's a game changer.
And then we're talking about wealth.
Right, yeah. Because now you own the pond, which means you own the fishing rights. So you could get up in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all right, with your short pants and go and catch fish. The pond is yours.
And you can even let other people come in.
It's your pond, all right, which means that is where ownership comes in. So one, I could give you a fish because you're hungry today. I could teach you to fish. You could go and you could fish and you could feed yourself and feed your family. But now the ownership comes in now. I want to teach you how to own the pond. Right? That is where you have generational legacy and thing.
Saying that,
yeah,
it's the same person that we're talking about now. But there was a state in where they were in need of a fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same person moved to fishing.
Right.
And owning the pond.
Right.
What has changed?
The ownership of the pond, because to own something, you need a different mindset. To be owner of something. All right? Your mindset needs to be different. You'll be thinking different.
So it's the mindset that
so we come back to mindset. So it's really the mindset, deal with the mindset. Like you said something just now, like if you said, I think what you were saying is that if I give you a fish with that mindset, what's going to happen? All right? And I said to you that, hey, nothing's going to happen because next month the problem comes. They'll come back for you, they will ask for fish again.
Yeah.
But they didn't learn anything.
But sometimes it's hard or tough to let people understand that it's not the fish you need at that moment.
Yeah, okay.
If we could take some more time and help you develop the skills that you need to fish, that's a different conversation with
why I laughed? I laughed because you're right. And I laugh also because those are conversations I have with people. And I'm telling you, I think a lot of people just be desperate and hungry. They're desperate to pay a bill and desperate to eat a food and desperate they want to sell a product and they're desperate. But majority of individuals, you're hardly meeting individuals who, listen to me, I want this transformation. This is not a one-time thing. I've seen people who come to me who literally, they want to learn, but they just want to sell a product. And they will choose to go selling products than to sit and be developed, all right? To own the product. versus selling a product.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I've seen it happen countless times because, I think it's as a result of people's situation some people are so tight, so strained for rent and for money and to pay a bill that they become so desperate that even to sit and be disciplined to go through a program, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I always say to folks that you always have the 1% and the 5%, which means that there are going to be 5% of the people that will do it and 1%. It's not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I come back to say, the poor you will have with you always, that's what the Bible says. It's sad, but I'm telling you. All right? Because desperate people do desperate things. Okay? I will sit with someone and say, listen to me, this is what you need to do to get there. Bam, let's work on you. Bam, bam. They say, yeah, okay. When they reach home, I do a time. Somebody called me, a customer called me to sell one product. Why? Because rent coming up, this coming to do. All right? So to move now to be disciplined to go through a program now, that is the challenge with a lot of people. Sometimes not that they don't want to, but it's challenge because there are bills to pay. And if I go and I could sell a product for $2,000 and I could sell that there, but are you learning anything? Are you being developed?
Yeah.
Are you growing?
But I think it also comes back to their needs or filling their needs at that moment.
Well, it's what you call like people like instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again, give me a fish, feed me for a day. But people don't want to own the pond, and that is why for me, one of my my mandate is the dominion mandate, where people need to dominate. So it's something I push a lot. I think I mentioned it on Saturday, the last part where you're moving from gift to skills, to perfection, to mastery, all right? And then to dominion, all right? And dominion is mastery over competence. That's it.
I want to leave my listeners with some tips.
Okay, sure.
My audience it's a bit broad, but looking at most of my users or listeners are between, let's say, 25 and 40 years.
It's good.
Some of them have their own businesses.
It's nice.
Some of them are starting their own business. And some are just in the workforce. We have different categories.
All right, good. Yeah.
So I want to pick two people that want to start their business.
Yeah.
We're going to the end, but I want you to leave some nuggets for those people.
Okay, sure.
That are in the workforce, but are planning to start, or they have an idea, but they don't know how to move forward.
All right, okay.
Well,
for those individuals, I think they need to get clarity on what are some of the skill sets, gifts, and tools that they carry on the inside. Okay, they have to identify that. What are some of the things that you are gifted with? What are your talents? What do you have? And if you make a list of that, get a pen and a paper. Those of you listening now, get a pen and a paper. All right, you're in that sector. You want to make that shift. What do you have? Because everything you need is on the inside, not on the outside. Okay? So what skills do you have? What talent do you have? What tools do you have? Make a list and write that down. All right? There's a program I built called the Gated Matrix.
Gated Matrix.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? It's a program. It's a diagram. It show you how to put your skills and your gifts in it, to zero down on the main thing. All right? I built that into a program called the Gated Dominion System program I built last year. All right? Which is I take individuals for the dominion concept. All right? So those who in that bracket, they need to identify that. All right? Because that is going to be, your gift is going to be the clue where you're supposed to be. Because if you're making that shift, you need to know where you're going. And I will advise them to do not underestimate the skills and the gifts and the talent that they have.
To pursue that.
Yeah. Even though they may not be working in that field right now, all right? Because a lot of people who may be listening on the categories that you call, they're probably working for a company or they're doing some other stuff that they're getting a pay for, a salary, all right? And have neglected the skills and the talents and the gift that they have, all right? So you want to be able to identify that.
Because what you see sometimes is that they have a lot of gifts, a lot of talents, so they try to use all of that.
No, you can't. Again, I mean, and as I said to you, those are programs we built. Those are things we do. So those are your listeners. If they want to get in contact with me, let them get in contact with me. Right. So we could. You need to get plugged into that because, as you rightfully said, individuals come to us. I mean, they could do a lot of things, but you could do a lot of things, but you cannot do a lot of things. All right. What is the main thing, and how to zero down to things that you're going to focus on? That's been the problem.
Yeah.
Zero down.
Looking into other business people or other founders. In the beginning, you talked about principles.
Yes.
Elon Musk, for example, he loves first principles. If he's seen a concept, he'll try to improve it, but he'll go first to the core.
Right, that's it.
And if he has that principle, then he works something out of that.
Right.
That's one. And the other thing is, all these business owners or people in business, sometimes they have multiple businesses.
Right, okay.
But it's not like they are starting multiple businesses at the same time. It's when they have one that's successful, then they are moving on to the second and third.
I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people need to know that. Because when you look at someone who is doing multifaceted businesses and they're doing good, if you sit with that person, it wasn't like that. All right? Probably you started to do this, like I was saying, you dig the wells, but when you find that fat well, all right? When you find that fat well that break forth, all right? If you go back into that story with Jacob, the principle is right in that, okay? When you find that business that is they call it the cash cow, that is the one you want, okay? And the people them that you see doing 4 or 5, somebody say, a lady said doing 19 streams of income. Okay, that's good. All right, and when you hear that, you say, well, I have to do 19 streams. I have to do 19. I have to get 19 streams. But it's not like that. Listen here, it's in the Bible. I'm telling you that. All that streams things in the Bible.
The seven streams comes from the
Bible. Even the same God with the 4 rivers coming out. It's one main river. It's one main coming from somewhere. Yes, and then it went into four streams. Then it went into 4. So you want to find that cash cow, because the fact of the matter is you cannot focus on 5, 6, 7, 8 business at the same time. Okay, it all will be saturated. None will be really profound. If you're doing stuff, if you're doing that, let me say this: if you're doing that, you want to be able to find the one that is the cash cow. You want to find that one. When you identify that, you put all your attention into that.
You know the concept of don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have that discussion. Don't put all your eggs in one basket because they could fall. But then you have someone like Warren Buffett who says, no, put all of them in one and make sure it doesn't fall.
But that's the same thing I'm thinking. That's the same concept I'm thinking too. All right. So you have, put it in another basket, but you're gonna have a basket that's gonna hold a lot. All right. So I think identifying those things are really, really important. Really important.
No,
right.
There's a lot to touch on.
I know.
There's a lot to touch on. But I think we've had within this, I think, probably an hour now,
Yeah.
we had so many things touched on
Okay.
within these concepts
Mm.
that I think moving forward would be a good foundation for a
Right.
second interview.
Okay, sure. Sure, we could make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to be back in
Yeah.
November.
And not only that, you've mentioned going live, so maybe
Yeah.
that's also an opportunity.
Yeah.
No, but thank
Yeah,
you,
okay.
thank you, Ian,
Yeah,
for
wonderful.
coming to this podcast. And I've learned a lot. So
Okay.
even for me, this will be taking my notes as
Right.
DBnotes
Yeah.
is for. So I'll go back to this and have some notes, and I hope my listeners get something out of this as well.
They will. All
Yeah.
right. I'll plug in some of my listeners because now it's gonna be English. So
Yeah. So this will be
Yeah.
not only for the Dutch
yeah, so it'll be all over.
Dutch speaking
Yeah,
audience, but the English audience can have something out of this as well.
It's good. I really enjoy this too.
Yeah. So I have your books here. I will drop the links. They are on Amazon,
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Okay. I will add the links to Amazon as well, so people can get into that if they want more information.
All right.
Again, thank you.
Let's see.
You're in Suriname now,
Yes.
leaving soon,
Yes.
and already from here. Have a nice trip.
All right. So was glad to be on the program.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed the discussion. It was really powerful. Love
Okay.
it.
No,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So that was the conversation with Dr. Ian Cummings, and this was my first episode in English. Thank you for that as well. DBnotes. Als je geniet van deze interviews, als je er iets uit hebt gehaald, share dit. Hou het niet voor jezelf. Share het met iemand anders, zodat ze dit ook kunnen volgen. Tot de volgende.